check in with Jose and Natasha and make sure that we have audio working okay. Jose, Natasha?
Hello, we are here. Can you hear us?
All right. Yes, we can. Excellent. Okay, well, welcome everyone on this beautiful sunny afternoon here in Chicago. And everyone is here for today's webinar, a look at powerful desktop BI with SAP Lumira. Our presenters today are Jose Hernandez, our Director of Business Intelligence, and Natasha Kishinevsky, our Business Intelligence Manager. Many of you are probably familiar with them from previous webinars. We have recordings of all of our past webinars available on our website, donesolutions.com. So if at any point you have some time and you'd like to browse through the selection of previous webinars, we invite you to do so. Okay, today what we are going to be doing is beginning with a brief introduction to Done Solutions, which I will cover, and then I'm going to turn it over to Jose and Natasha. They are going to discuss the need for self-service BI, give you a demonstration of the SAP Lumira server product, and end things with a closing. Feel free to submit any questions. As always, it really depends on how much time we have left at the end and how complex the questions are. So we will either answer some questions at the end if we have time or follow up with you individually via email with those answers. However, your questions are welcome at any time, so please do feel free to submit them. Okay, I'll get started with the introduction. Done Solutions has a long history of delivering innovative business technology solutions to companies. We're headquartered just outside of Chicago and have offices in Minneapolis, Raleigh, St. Louis, and Bangalore, India. Our offerings fall into three practice areas. Our application development solutions feature portals, e-commerce and content managed websites, mobile application development, and custom application development. Our business intelligence solutions feature analytics and BI platforms, as well as data warehouse and data integration solutions. We are an authorized SAP and life-rate training provider. We offer classroom, virtual, private, and custom options. In addition, we also offer several out-of-the-box analytics frameworks. Our BI frameworks include solutions for accountable care organizations, corporate legal departments, higher education institutions, and optical shops. Please let us know if you're interested in learning more about these exciting solutions. Done Solutions provides services across the entire business intelligence stack. These include back-office activities such as data warehousing, data integration, and cleansing, as well as front-office activities such as reporting, analytics, data exploration and visualization, and dashboards. We can provide assistance for any of these areas or even take charge of your entire BI environment. As an SAP Gold partner, we have the skills and people to meet your needs. We are an SAP Gold partner and have been a top-level partner for nearly 20 years. As an SAP authorized training provider, we help companies nationwide maximize their technology investments and offer public, private, virtual, and custom courses. Our public classrooms are located in Minneapolis, St. Louis, and Raleigh. Please contact us for any SAP training needs your company may have. Our clients, some of which are included here, are a combination of Fortune 500, mid-market companies, government agencies, and nonprofits across all verticals. Before we turn it over to Jose and Natasha, I did want to mention that Jose, Natasha, and other members of our team will be at the ASUG conference, that's the SAP Analytics and Business Objects Users Conference, located in Fort Worth this year, September 22nd through 24th. It's a 3-day event. A lot of fun. We'll be in booth 210. I invite you to stop by, say hello to Jose and Natasha. We'll be doing some fun things at our booth, including demos of SAP Lumira and the predictive analytics product, SAP Infinite Insight. So we hope to see you there, if in fact you are intending. All right, at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Jose and Natasha, and they will get into today's presentation. We thank you for joining us, and hope you enjoy it. One moment, please, while I turn this over.
Hello, everyone. As Lori switches over and makes Natasha and I the presenters, we'll get going here. So just one quick second, and I believe We are good to go. Lori, can you confirm that you are seeing our screen now?
Yes, we are.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so we have just a few slides before we dive into some live demonstrations, and we want to kind of set the stage and talk about the need for self-service BI. Our slide is considering changing here. Oh, there we go. Very good. So one thing that's obvious is if you look across the entire organization, there are a variety of roles that people play in terms of a BI initiative. There's the IT component of what has to be done, including there's also the decision makers and the various analysts. And depending on what role someone may be playing, there are different things that they need to do. Bottom line, though, is all these folks have to have the ability to easily get to their data and get to the information that they need in order to get their job done. From the IT point of view, they're basically looking at how can I prepare the environment and provision the capabilities across the various roles of other folks that need to use this. And of course, IT can use the self-service BI components themselves as well. In terms of decision makers, they're typically accessing the information and consuming the information. And on occasion, some of the decision makers also create some of the content themselves. And then there's the role of analyst, which is a very generic role. But if you think of anyone that needs to get at data and needs to prepare information to be consumed by the business or themselves in such a way that they can make business decisions, those are the analysts. And from an analyst point of view, we are consuming, we're investigating the data, we're preparing it, and sometimes even doing predictive analytics on this information, and having it such so that we can then share it with the decision makers. And so for a platform to be able to do all this, it has to be a very robust, full-featured platform and handle all various scenarios. If we look at the decision makers, and by the way, if anyone might notice, yes, I did borrow this slide from SAP as well as the next one because they have such nice studio quality slides. I thought I would take advantage of those. But if we consider the decision makers, they really need to get to their information as easily as possibly, and not just easily, but when they need it. And the reality is that they have questions that they need to answer so that and instead of reaching out to someone to go ahead and research the answers and so on, they'd love to gain access to these things immediately. So they could answer such questions as like, you know, what's going on right now within, for example, the sales organization. Hey, how are my sales going on in the various regions that I'm managing and dealing with? And gosh, you know, what are my competitors doing? So as long as I'm collecting this information in some way and I can present it in some way, I have to be able to give this access to my decision makers so that they can make some real-time, quick. Sorry, folks, there's some kind of alarm going off here.
It's an Amber Alert.
It's an Amber Alert. Oh, gosh. That's important, but doesn't directly affect us. Thanks, Lori. Let me see if I can regroup here real quick. So, so my decision makers need to get the information that they need in their hands so that they can make, get some real-time insight and make some real-time decisions. In terms from an analyst point of view, the analyst plays a different role. They're basically getting their hands dirty and rolling up their sleeves and getting to data. And that data may come from a variety of sources. It may come from my corporate data warehouse, where it's basically the cleansed, approved, official data. But sometimes some of the information that they need to look at and even combine with some of that cleansed data comes from a variety of sources. I may have them in Excel spreadsheets. I may get them from web service feeds. There's a variety of places I may have this data. But the reality is that some of the data that our analysts have to deal with aren't pure, clean data that's coming from our corporate data warehouses. It may be coming from other systems. It may be coming from external sources. But they need to converge and merge this data together so that they can find nuggets of information. So what's very important is the ability for these folks to be able to do that. And what would be really cool is if they could do that with tools that are part of a full-service platform that would allow them to share the findings and the information that they gathered with the rest of the consumers, the rest of the decision makers. Okay, so if I think about the role of that data analyst, and that is who we're going to focus on today, basically the data analysts, as I mentioned, have to roll up their sleeves, plunge into the data, and that data could be in a variety of states. It could be nice, crisp, and clean and ready to use, or it could be strange, messy data that they have to contend with. In any case, I'd like for them to have a series of tools that they can get through this data and do the activities, the things that they do. You know, the hunter-gatherer activities. Let me go find this data. Let me go gather it up so that I can then explore this information. They may have to, they may have to extract this data from a variety of sources. Once they've extracted this data and they've put it all together, they need to explore through it, visualize it, and ultimately present and share the information. What we're going to look at today is basically a tool that will allow them to do all these things and then do it in a cohesive manner. And going back to one of my favorite movies of all time, Minority Report, we're not quite there yet, though the technology does exist for us to simulate this, but we're getting close. And tools like Lumira, which is what we're going to focus on today, gets us pretty close to being able to do some of those things. And Lumira is, some of you have already seen, and if you haven't, I'm going to give you a quick little run-through as to what this tool is all about and what it does. Lumira is a tool that lives on the desktop as well as lives in the cloud, as well as lives on-premise on your servers, that allows us to do all these various activities, from acquiring the data, to enriching the data, building visualizations, telling stories, and then sharing the information. And so that's the kind of things that we're going to look at in our demonstration today. Now, the really exciting thing that has happened recently is that Lumira, originally that started out as a desktop application and eventually went to the cloud, is now available in a variety of types of deployments, from desktop to departmental and enterprise, and connects very nicely with the Lumira server as well as the SAP BI platform. And that's part of what we're going to look at today. So from an individual point of view, I can deploy Lumira on my desktop, and I can go acquire data, massage it, visualize it, explore it, and then present it. At a departmental level, I can take those visualizations and share it in what's called the Lumira server, and I can give folks access to the Lumira server. But a very exciting thing that has recently been released, it's not generally released just yet, but it's released for ramp-up, is the connectivity between this Lumira output and the SAP BI platform. We're doing something brave in our demonstration today. We have downloaded the ramp-up software that allows us to connect the Lumira server components with the SAP BI platform. And one of the things that we hope to demonstrate today is the ability to consume some of the stories that we tell in Lumira on the BI platform. Along with the ability to do this, and we'll talk about this later, there is some very cool new licensing that is available from SAP that will allow us to deploy all the technology that's required to do this on our on-premise environments. And that's kind of what we've done here at Done Solutions Group and part of what we're going to show you today. All right, let's get to the demonstration. And I think what we're going to do here is Natasha's going to drive most of the demonstration. I'm going to, early on here, I'm going to do a quick little walkthrough of the product itself. But we're going to work you through the life cycle of building something from scratch in Lumira, and then ultimately taking it, publishing it to the platform, and then consuming it from the platform. And if all the technology gods are kind to us today, I think we'll be able to pull that off, but we will see. I believe we actually took some screenshots in case the technology gods are not being kind to us.
Are covered.
All right, very good. All right, so before we get started, what we're looking at here is the Lumira platform. And Natasha, if you can open up any Lumira document that we have here so I can kind of walk them through the interface. If you've seen the Lumira product in the past, this will not be new to you, but some of you may not have seen the Lumira product, so I want to make sure that before we dive into building something that you get a sense for what the experience is. If you look up on top, there's a Prepare, a Visualize, a Compose, and a Share tab that's part of the interface. These are the 4 basic steps that we go through in order to build a Lumira story. And why don't we go ahead and start with Prepare, since it's the first thing that we do. In the Prepare tab, what we do here is we acquire data. And we can acquire data from a variety of places. Natasha, could you be so kind as to hit the new data set just to show the things that we can get data from? And so with Lumira, we can go out and consume data from a variety of sources, whether that be Excel spreadsheets, or data that we put in our clipboard, or data directly from HANA, or from universes from within our platform, or even directly against SQL sources. We can go ahead and consume data and bring it in and acquire stuff in that way. Now, once we have that data acquired, it's really interesting. We can have several data sets, and when we have those several data sets, we can even merge them or append them together. So in a sense, I can do some basic ETL with the Lumira desktop product, which is really neat because if I had to do formal ETL development to get some data merged together, there's no telling how long that would take. And I don't necessarily want the formality here of writing formal ETL. I want to ad hoc, on the fly, combine data together. So it's ad hoc, on the fly ETL. And the really interesting thing is that when I do that within Lumira, and I save my documents, it remembers all the ETL-ish kinds of things. That's a technical term, by the way, ETL-ish. I'll coin that phrase. All the ETL things that I have done, and when I refresh the document, it'll reapply all that ETL stuff that I had done. So that's really neat. So it does allow me the ability to do some really cool things. Now, once I've got all my data together, I can enhance the data and create the various components that I will use in my visualizations. And I can create my measures and my hierarchical dimensions as well as my regular dimensions. And once I've done all that, I'm ready to do some visualizations. Natasha, if you could click on the Visualize tab. If any of you out there have used some of the other SAP BI products like Web Intelligence or Crystal for Enterprise, you're accustomed to the concept of, hey, I've selected some dimensional objects and some measure objects, and then I can drag them and drop them onto my virtual sheets of paper. Well, the same kind of thing is true here. Over on the right-hand side, I have my various visualizations, and on the left-hand side, I have the various measures and dimensions that I can drag into those visualizations. And as we kind of just look over the screen here, you can see where there are some of those things that have been dragged over and are being applied to a particular visualization. Now, I can create a series of visualizations. If you look down towards the bottom part of the screen, you can see that I have thumbnails of visualizations that I've created. And the whole idea here is that I would create whatever visualizations I think might be interesting or that I might need and have them all available at a click so that I can go through and take a look at these. All right, so once I've got visualizations created, I'm ready to compose a story. And in composing a story is really like creating a dashboard. And it's interactive as well. So what I do with composing a story is, if you think about creating a storyboard or even a PowerPoint presentation, you have a variety of slides, and on each slide you show different things. It's kind of like that. So I can create a story made up of multiple storyboards, and I drag my visualizations and my controls onto that storyboard. As you see here, I've got some control, a year control, and I've got a nice little combined chart down here at the bottom. And as I drag and drop those things, I create my stories that I want to tell. And the idea here is that I can create a storyboard such that I can convey a very specific message, or I can tell a very general story, and it's highly interactive. Now, once I've composed this story, I can keep it to myself and go ahead and use it for my own purposes, or I can share this particular story in a variety of ways. One way that I can share my story is by giving this document to someone else who has Lumira on the desktop. They can go ahead and open this up, and they can go through the visualizations, they can modify it, they can interact with it, do all the types of things that I was doing when I first created it. But the other thing that I can do now that's very interesting is that I can take this thing and publish it to my SAP BI platform. And when I do that, I will take this story, put it on the platform, and much like I can consume a Crystal report or a Web Intelligence document, I can consume a Lumira story. And that's the whole cycle. Now, think about how cool that is. I can go from ad hoc on-the-fly ETL to creating some very nice visualizations, some of them somewhat stunning if you're into that, ultimately telling a story, and then publishing it onto my corporate BI portal where other folks can consume it and interact with it just like I do a crystal report, a web intelligence document, or a dashboard. And that's where it comes full circle. I can create my BI content with my corporate BI tools, Crystal, Web Intelligence, Dashboards, Explorer, and I can also now take content that I create on the desktop in a maybe less official way and publish those to be consumed as well from the platform. And that's the idea, and that's the story. I will now stop yapping because I believe that what we're going to do is from scratch, we're going to go through this entire process.
Yep, we're going to create the document that we've just gone through. We're going to create it from scratch just so that everybody's aware of what process we have to go through to get something like this out and published to the platform. So
now, Natasha, I want to do a time check. We actually, I talked fast enough for where we have enough time, I think, that we can pull this off without being frantic. So just to let you know.
Understood. Slowing down. So as I mentioned before in one of the slides, actually the whole process was represented really well, and I like to start the demonstration of building a new visualization, a new story with this home screen, because it does really tell you what I'm about to do. I'm going to acquire some data. I'm going to enrich it. I'm going to make some transformations. I'm going to create some transformations with that data. I'm going to create some visualizations, compose a storyboard, and I'm going to publish it to the platform so that we can consume it on the BI Launchpad. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to bring in a new document here. And the first source I'm going to use is a universe. Those of you who are familiar with Web Intelligence and other SAP reporting tools, you are familiar with the concept of the universe. And essentially, that's a semantic layer that allows you to use kind of a GUI interface to bring in the objects that you're familiar with. And
hey, one of the things I noticed is that we're using eFashion.
We're using eFashion. That's our favorite demo data set. So just like with using Web Intelligence, you have the objects here that are available for you, so you can just basically use them in your future documents. So I'm going to bring in some objects here. Let's bring in year, quarter. I will bring in the month name, some geographical attributes like the state, the city, and let's bring in some product information as well. I'm going to bring in the product lines, and we do need some measurements. We'll bring in the sales revenue, the quantity sold, and also the margin. All right, and I'm just making sure I got everything I need. Let's go ahead and acquire this data set.
All right, so here I am in Lumira taking advantage of the fact that I do have some corporate data sets that I can go ahead and consume that I might want to later mash up with something. So I can go to the platform and originate some of the data right from there. So that's pretty neat.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I noticed right away when the data is displayed here is that I have some blank rows, and maybe we're missing some data. So what I want to do, I actually don't want to see that. So I'm going to go ahead and filter those rows out. So I'm going to want to exclude the blank values. All right, here we go. That looks a lot better. Now, I just noticed that there's one thing missing from my data set. I really wanted to also go down to the store name level, and I didn't bring in the store name here. So I'm going to go ahead and edit my data set. Just like editing a query, let's go ahead and find our store name object. I'm going to bring that in.
So it really is an iterative approach that I can take here, because if I didn't get all the data I thought I wanted, it's pretty easy just to go back out there and grab whatever additional information I needed.
Exactly. And notice when it updates that data set, my blank records are still being kept out because I did apply that filter, and it keeps that process
memorized. Yeah.
Memorized. All right, so my store name, and actually I'm not seeing it here.
Oh, I think I know what happened. As you were, if you have to reselect to make sure that that column is. hey, it wouldn't be a demo if something didn't
go wrong. We'll keep going. All right, so let's say that you have a scenario where you're bringing in some measurements from some metrics from the data warehouse, and there's something missing here. For example, we have our sales revenue, we have our quantity sold, we have the margin. We don't have a cost measurement. So if you wanted to create something where you calculate the cost and you want to display the cost in your visualizations, you can actually create your own calculations here. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new calculated measure. And I'm going to take the sales revenue. I'm going to subtract the margin from it to get our cost. All right, so now if we look over on the left-hand side, our cost is an additional measure that we have created. Now, by the way, you'll notice that when you bring in the new data set into Lumira, it's smart enough to understand which fields in your data set can be consumed as measures and be aggregated versus some fields that are strictly attributes. So it's basically doing an enrichment of sorts for us when we're bringing in this new data. All right, some other things that you can do here. Let's say here we have our year and the quarter. What if we wanted to display our information by year's first half and second half? Well, you can create your own calculation, as we just saw. Not only the measures can be calculated here, but we can also create a new calculated dimension, a new attribute. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to call it year half. And I do have the syntax here saved, so that I don't have to type and talk. All right, so we're going to create this this particular attribute.
So what this is going to do is it's going to say, hey, if it's Q1 or Q2, it's the first half of the year. If it's Q3 and Q4, it's the second half of the year.
Exactly. So if we look over on the right-hand side, we see that new dimension attribute added as first half, second half of the year. All right. Now, I have some information about the stores and their sales revenue and the quantity sold for those stores. What if I wanted to actually display those stores on a map? Well, I happen to have a data set that includes latitude and longitude for the variety of the U.S. cities. So why don't I go ahead and bring in that new data set? And that new data set is actually an Excel spreadsheet.
So here's an example where we're taking data that comes from some completely other different place. Say that 10 times really fast. And we're going to, I'm assuming that what we're going to do next is combine that with the information that we already have that we got from our universe.
Exactly. And just to kind of give you an idea, it works as any parser in any reporting tools where you can consume Excel files and CSV files. Basically parses all the columns, notices what the header rows are. It actually tells you how many rows are in that particular data set. And we're going to go ahead and create that additional data set. All right, so here we now have our latitude and longitude for the variety of the cities. And here's our data set from eFashion. We're going to go ahead and combine those two data sets together. There's two options when you combine it. So as I mentioned, you can merge the data sets together. If you have one common object between the two data sets, you can go ahead and combine those two data sets together based on that common object. You can also use an append operation, which behaves more like a union. So let's go ahead and merge this, and we'll use city and state.
So in essence, what you're doing here is you're making a join between columns within those two components. Now, all right, very good.
All right, so it looks like it did find some of the matching.
I think I go back to your merge. I noticed what I should have said something. I'm sorry.
As I'm typing and doing something
yes.
at the same time.
Your key combinations were out of order. So city and city have to be one, and then state and state. They were backwards.
All right.
I guess New York, New York is the one that matched up.
There we go.
There we go. That's called extreme programming, where two people are at the same keyboard.
All right, so here we go. Here's our latitude and longitude based on our the second data set that we have. All right, so we will be able to show this information on a Geomap. All right, before we go on to visualizing our data, the other thing that I wanted to do here is I wanted to create a geography hierarchy. So in order for us to be able to display this information on a map, we need to have a geographical hierarchy created. And this tool is making a suggestion here for me because it recognized an object here that could serve as a beginning of our geography hierarchy. So I'm going to go ahead and use that to create a geo hierarchy. Now, there's two options that you can take here. You can either create a geo hierarchy by name. Lumira actually has a database that lists all the cities and states and regions.
A bunch.
I shouldn't say all. Actually, any city that has over 100,000 people population. So anything smaller than that will not be contained in that database.
So Key West is out of the
Yes, Key West was one of our problems here. We couldn't find a match for it. But latitude and longitude is actually a lot more reliable because we do have latitude and longitude for all of our cities here. So let's go ahead and do that. And here we have to specify what to use for lat, long. There we go.
What are you looking for?
Let me just do this one more time. I'd like to create another geo hierarchy with.
Oh, I know what you had to turn on the other region, the other hierarchy levels.
Yep. Let's do at this level.
That is city. You should make that city.
Region.
Region state. So make that. Why can't you make it city?
There we go. That's what I wanted. I wanted to have a state and city in it as well. All right. So now that we've done everything we needed to do for preparing our data, we can go ahead and start visualizing this data. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my Visualize tab here, and we'll start building some visualizations. So let's build something very simple to begin with. We're going to build a column chart with 2 y-axes. So the idea here is that you can have multiple measures in the same chart, and the creation of a visualization is also a very user-friendly process. One of the things I can do here is I can add a measure to my y-axis. Let's go ahead and add sales revenue. And I do want to have another one here. I want to look at quantity sold kind of side by side with the sales revenue. And let's do that by state. So I'm going to bring in state as my x-axis. All right. Now, the other neat feature of Lumira is that it allows you to create trellises. So if I wanted to look at this information at this particular chart, and I want to separate it, I want to segregate it by years, I can create a trellis either on rows or columns. I'm going to go ahead and do a column trellis on the years. So for each year, I can see the sales revenue and quantity sold per each state for each year here. All right, let's go ahead and create another visualization. One of my favorite visualizations is a tab cloud. I really like the ease of readability of it. So here we have word weight and word color. So let's go ahead and use our quantity sold as the weight and the sales revenue as the color. And for the line, for the word, I'm actually going to display the lines, the product lines. So if I look over here, it looks like my sweat, t-shirts, and accessories were the most popular product lines, sold the most quantity, and generated the most sales revenue. Let's go ahead and create another visualization, and this time I'm going to use something that's brand new to us, and it's one of the Geomaps.
Oh, so while you do this, let me go ahead and chat. This is very interesting. So recently, in one of the Lumira releases, and one thing that I have to mention, the Lumira team is on a fast-track release schedule. Every few weeks, I think it's every 6 to 8 weeks, they release a new version of Lumira with added features and added capabilities. And it was a couple of releases ago that they introduced the integration of Esri maps with the Lumira product. And so what we're doing here is, instead of using one of the out-of-the-boxes Lumira generic maps, we are creating some visualizations with Esri-generated maps. And so that's a neat new newer feature that's available on Lumira now.
Yeah, so based on the geography hierarchy that I created in my preparation stage, I was able to actually create this map and plot in my cities. So I have some information for San Francisco, Los Angeles, Houston, Dallas, a couple of cities here on the East Coast, Chicago, and I'm able to actually add a color to it. So based on sales revenue, you can see that the difference in colors, and the lower the sales revenue, the kind of the lighter the color. You can also change the look and feel of this map and display the information that you want as a bubble. So the size of the bubble is actually driven by the sales revenue in this color in this example. You can also add a color to this. So I'm going to go ahead and add. Let's go ahead and add lines. And it creates a nice legend for you so that you can actually go through it and figure out what information is displayed here. Now, not only can you do that, you can actually add multiple layers to your geography map. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Let's add another layer. And what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to display at the region level, and my color will be driven by quantity sold. So basically, when I'm looking at this particular geomap, I can see now the different regions, and the shading of the regions, or the states in this case, is based on our quantity sold. So the darker states like Texas and California sold the most, while Florida and it looks like Colorado were kind of in the low numbers. And I can also, for readability purposes, I can turn the layers on and off to make them stand out a little more.
But this is interesting here. If you look at just from a graphical, from a visualization point of view, I can quickly tell that most of my products are being sold in Texas and California, probably because I have more stores there than in the other places. And then I can also quickly, at a glance, see the geography within those states and the and those circles telling me about the sales revenue that are floating out there in those various cities. So there's a lot of information that you can glean simply by using the geographical layout of these maps. So they come in very it's a different way of looking at your data.
So just a few more things to say about the visualizations here. The visualization components, those of you who are familiar with other SAP BI tools, you will be familiar with these charts and graphs. They are very consistent in the way that they look, and the variety of them is growing. As I mentioned, there's new charts added with every release. They're very similar to the charts that you see in Web Intelligence and Crystal reports. Well, yeah.
Oh, no, I just wanted to see, what I was looking for is I wanted to, Natasha, there's a place with all the funnel, the miscellaneous charts, so we can see some of the, oh, there we go. So these are some charts that you won't necessarily see in some of the other products that appear first in Lumira. There's the funnel chart. Anybody who's measuring a sales pipeline understands the concept of a funnel chart. I've got my network trees and my waterfalls. Oh, there are waterfall charts before. But a variety of other neat kinds of charts that I can use that are part of this product set.
All right, so now that we have some visualizations created, we can go ahead and, why don't I create one more, just one more, and we can go ahead and compose some storyboards. I'm going to create a trend that measures the sales revenue and margin by year, and my trellis in this case will be state. So for each state, I can trend my sales revenue and margin by years. All right, now let me recreate my Geomap because I just replaced it. All right, that's perfect. All right, let's go ahead and save this.
Now here, as you're saving this particular document, you're saving this locally.
Right, for now I am saving it locally, yes. Go ahead and compose a story.
All right, so now the idea here is that you create these visualizations, and now you can combine these visualizations in such a way that will allow you to tell a particular story. As Natasha builds the storyboard here, if you think about this as a PowerPoint presentation where each slide conveys a particular message, that's the kind of thing that you can do here. You can drag your visualizations and certain controls onto each of the storyboards, and you can add additional pages to the story that you're telling, as she will be doing right here. And there's you can choose from a variety of templates, or like Natasha uses the blank template where allows her to drop things pretty much anywhere. There we go. I think how many pages are you doing on our particular?
I'm going to do 3.
3? Okay.
Do this one and one more.
And notice that sometimes she is dropping on some visualizations, and she's also dropping on controls that allow folks to do some selections that affect the visualizations.
I have to have my map.
Of course. So what are you going to do, a little input control that selects the states?
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to do. All right. I think we're good to go with this. Just browse through my pages one more time, and we can go ahead and share this.
Oh, before we share, did you want to interact with some of the storyboards?
Oh, sure.
Because we kind of created them real quick. And so now as you page from page to page here, you see some of the check boxes that you have. You can go ahead and interact with this and turn on and turn off various parts of the story.
And as you're building them, if you see that something is not making sense or something is not as easy to read as you hoped, you can obviously resize. The reason why I like this blank template is because I feel like I have more control over what I'm about to display, and it looks like it does resize and rescale based on the screen size, and you can basically drag and drop and have more control over what you're showing.
Okay.
And this is our map.
By the way, since we're at the map here, you know, this is an Esri map, so some of this that you can zoom in on the map, you can switch to like a satellite view and a variety of other neat things. So it is a full, there we go, now we're looking at our data in a satellite view. And hey, why don't we zoom in on Southern California and see what's going on over there? cool. You can push it up a little bit so we can see the bottom of it. There we go. So a lot of cool little interactions that you can do with the Esri integration. So I always thought that was pretty cool.
All right.
So it's time to share, and before you go ahead and share it to the platform, there's a variety of places that you can share content with. One of the things I can do is I can take my data set and share it to the platform for consumption through Explore. That's one of the things I can do. And I can also take my, my stories that I've told here and I can share it with the Lumira Cloud, which is a cloud service offered by SAP. And now the new thing, and the thing that we're hoping to show today, is the ability to share these things on my BI platform.
So yeah, so just really quick, when you're publishing to the BI platform, you're basically publishing the composed story. And as Jose mentioned, if you just wanted to publish the data set, you have all these other options here. If I were to publish the storyboard that I created with visualizations, I can publish it to the Lumira server, the cloud, or the BI platform. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do that. And it integrates with our BI Launchpad, so every folder that we have out there is actually visible to us here.
Assuming you have rights.
Assuming you have rights to those folders, correct. So I'm going to go ahead and publish it to my Lumira stories. I have a dedicated folder here.
All right, looks like we got stuff published. Cool.
All right.
So now the story that you just created, in theory, is waiting for me to consume from the BI Launchpad.
That's correct.
By the way, if some folks are on this and you have not seen the rest of the BI platform, I guess you're going to get a sneak peek of what that is. And we have a whole series of webinars that focus on the platform and the various parts and pieces. So you can certainly go back and take a look at some of those from our website. And here's some Lumira stories. So we have, which one is the one that we just created?
We just published the e-fashion sales analysis, so let's go ahead and open it.
Oh, cool. So now that story that we just created in Lumira, which we, of course, we can interact with and have fun with in learning some insight on our data from within Lumira, is now available for folks to consume via the BI platform. And I see here that I can access the various pages. And I can interact with it just like I could within Lumira. Awesome. Oh, and here's our Esri map.
Most importantly, my map. There we go.
Very cool. So really, we've come full circle now where we can go ahead and create content from data right from the platform, that corporate, polished, good data that's available out there. But now I can also find some nuggets of information, combine it with that data, do some massage the data, get it prepped, create some visualizations, create a story out of it, and then take that and I can publish it to my BI platform for consumption, just like I can a web intelligence report or a crystal report, much like any other BI content. Very cool.
Yeah, and it does create a repeatable process, just like Jose mentioned. It does create a repeatable process. So every time we update something in our e-fashion data set, or if we update something with the latitude and longitude of the different cities and states, all we have to do is basically go to Lumira and refresh our visualizations and refresh our data sets, and all the processes that we've taken to cleanse it and manipulate this data here will be saved as a repeatable process.
All right, very cool. Hey, Natasha, if we can finish up, I think there's a few slides that we have to go through. So thank you very much for the presentation. That all went pretty smoothly.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I like it when the demo actually goes well. Yes?
I have a couple of questions based on the demo, quick questions that I think would be helpful to the audience if we had a couple of minutes to answer them.
I can certainly, let me get to that in a second.
Okay.
I just want to do a couple quick slides, and then we'll get to those questions real quick. So the first thing I wanted to do is, so you saw us play around with Lumira Desktop. You too can play around with Lumira Desktop. Basically, through this URL, you can download a free personal edition of Lumira, and you can have at it. Suck in some of the data from personal data sources that you have, like Excel spreadsheets and so on, and go ahead and start working with Lumira in that way. Now, with the desktop free version, you can't consume enterprise data from the SAP platform, but everything else that we were doing in terms of creating the data massaging, the visualizations, and the stories, you can do from here. Tasha, next slide. I think I'm going to pause here for a second and try to answer some of those questions, and then we just have a few more slides. So, Lori?
Okay. Regarding the Geomaps, do they work for other countries other than the U.S.?
Oh, yes. Those are Esri maps, and eFashion just has stores in the States. But maybe for our next demonstration, we'll open up a store in Germany or something, and so we can show that as well.
And do they go down to the county level, or is it only state?
Basically, if you have the lat long information, and you can choose a sub-region or assign any one of those regions to whatever hierarchical area you want, you can then go ahead and publish it that way.
Okay.
But you need the lat long information.
Okay. And regarding Lumira for the end users, have you and the BI team found that this is something easy for end users to pick up on?
Let me answer that in two parts. Today, I'd step back and say, yeah, this is pretty easy to pick up. If you're doing it for the first time, you just have to get used to the multiple steps that you have to do. And probably the most challenging part, and it's not that hard, but it's the most challenging part, is the massaging of the data. So if you know how to use Excel and you are comfortable with Excel functions and Excel type of things, you should be able to pick this up very easily. The visualizations and the storyboards, very straightforward.
Okay. And when you publish a Lumira story to the BI platform, are you able to refresh the data in the story, or are you able to schedule a refresh, or how does that work?
In terms of, for example, if you're hooked up to live data and you're, actually I'm not sure to the answer to that question, which I will take that one offline and we'll research it to make sure, because I know that the published story, I am pretty sure that it connects live to data. So if you're getting data from a SQL source that you have a connection to, it may get that live, but I'm going to go ahead and verify that before I answer it. And then I will, as we publish the answers, I will make sure that we have the appropriate answer.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah, there were quite a few questions around that one. And does Lumira have a drill down functionality within a hierarchical dimension?
Yes. If I define a hierarchy based on like time or geography, for example, I can start out by that higher level and drill down into those lower levels of the hierarchy.
Okay. And anything need to be configured on the BI server in order to publish from Lumira?
Yes. Lots of things. And so which brings me to this slide right here. There's a lot of moving parts and pieces that have to be configured for all this to work. But the really exciting thing is how SAP has announced new licensing that will allow people that are buying the BI suite the ability to have all this stuff included that's required. There's a variety of things that are needed in order for the integration to work. You need HANA, you need the Lumira server, and part of the licensing, that some of the licensing changes that I want folks to contact us so we can walk through it in their scenario. But when you're talking about the BI suite, they are going to be including runtime versions of the Lumira server and HANA for the integration to the BI suite. Those products will be specifically only used for this integration. You can't use them for general data warehousing, but if you do have official HANA licensing, it would play both roles. So there's a variety of things that you have to do to make this work. There's some licensing questions that we'd have to walk through, So folks that are interested in doing this and want more information as to what has to happen in order to do it, not just from a technical point of view, but also from a licensing point of view, if they reach out to us at info@donesolutions.com, we'll make sure to contact them and answer those questions. Now, by the way, Natasha, next slide. So thank you very much. Natasha and I are both going to be at ASUG, so if folks want to see Lumira happening there, by all means come to our booth. The other thing I want to mention is, assuming that we have reliable network connectivity while we're at the show, we're going to also demonstrate the whole BI integration component so that folks can take a look at that as well. I also want to remind everyone that we do have, off of our donesolutions.com website, we do have a business intelligence blog where we are posting information about these types of things. We haven't written anything up yet on this Lumira integration. We really just did install it a couple of days ago. But we are going to be creating some blog entries on this integration. Hey, I wanted to thank everyone for participating and joining us in our presentation today. We were very excited about this presentation. We were also a little bit nervous about the presentation, as we had just installed the new software just a couple of days ago. But it seems to be working okay. It's not in general release yet, that integration component. It is available as a ramp-up. And if folks want to try that ramp-up, by all means, reach out to us at info@donesolutions.com, and we'll help you through the process of getting the software from SAP so that you can go ahead and do the integration yourselves. Once again, Natasha, thank you so much for the wonderful job running the actual demo. That's what everyone wanted to really see, so I certainly appreciate that. And thank you all again for joining us, and stay tuned for the next presentation that we have in mind. We haven't quite figured out what that's going to be, but we will announce it. Thank you.
Thank you.